Video game bosses can create some great memories. Taking down a gigantic tyrant can be pure ecstasy. But when the formula is wrong, it can leave a really bad taste in your mouth. I found myself thinking back over some of the most painfully annoying bosses I've come across recently and thought I'd make a little list. Note that these bosses are annoying, they aren't necessarily difficult. Say goodbye to your watermelon woes. If you've ever struggled with cutting watermelon, or just don't really know what the best way to cut it, we've got the answers with this step-by-step help. You'll be cutting watermelon like a pro into sticks, wedges, and cubes in no time. Talk about the perfect summer snack. Cubes sick of making a huge mess when you're cutting watermelon. Along with being pretty impressive, this method helps keep the mess down by cutting the watermelon while it's still in the rind. It's magic. Start off with half a watermelon, flat side down on your cutting board, preferably one with a drip groove to catch juice. Make 2 to 3 cuts into one side of the watermelon. A smaller watermelon may only need 2 cuts. Starting with your first cut, insert your knife into the watermelon rind, carefully cutting straight through until the tip of your knife hits the inner rind on the opposite side. Don't cut through. From here, move the knife around the inside of the watermelon, cutting along the inner rind. You should be able to feel some resistance when the tip of your knife is all the way in. To make sure you're cutting deep enough, just take the knife out and place your fingers at the point where your knife is all the way down to the inner rind. Finally, a quick disclaimer before I get onto the list. This is obviously just my opinion, feel free to chime in with your own in the comments section. RuneScape, Tease Talk Jad, or simply Jad, is the boss of the fight pits in RuneScape. Then you can place the knife back in the cut, and you'll know how far in it needs to go. Once you have made your 3 cuts, flip the watermelon over and cut along the outer edge of the watermelon, releasing it from the rind. Once you have cut around the watermelon like this, the rest is easy. Just cut through the watermelon lengthwise, making sure not to cut through the rind. It's one of the strongest enemies in the game, but that isn't why it's featured on the list. Next, make cuts widthwise, until you have squares. Then scoop the cubes into a bowl and serve them up. Sticks. This method is pretty straightforward, and a super fun way to serve watermelon to a crowd. Reaching Jad requires defeating over 250 enemies back to back without coming out for supplies. What you take in is what you can use for the battle, and those resources will be whittled down even before you face Jad. Start off by cutting all of the rind off. First, carefully remove the rind. Place the watermelon on a plate and slice it across its length and then again across the width. From here, place a bowl over top of the watermelon, and holding the bowl and plate together tightly, flip it so the watermelon transfers into the bowl. Neat trick. Now just remove the plate and serve the watermelon sticks. Wedges. We'll finish with the classic watermelon wedges. Now some people might think there is no need for instruction on this method, but we'll show you the easy way to get from watermelon to wedges in no time flat. Start by cutting an entire watermelon into slices. Remove the top and bottom slices, then stack the rest of the slices on your cutting board, in the same order they were cut. From here, all that's left to do is cut the whole watermelon stack into quarters. Voila! You'll never cut watermelon wedges any other way. Now go forth, and cut that watermelon like a pro. Become a kitchen expert with our How TOS and you'll know how to make just about anything. You can't use any summoned familiars either, and if you die then you have to start the whole run again. Dead Rising. Convicts who can forget opening the shopping center doors in the original Dead Rising to be greeted by a small group of convicts armed with a jeep, a heavy machine gun with pinpoint accuracy, and a baseball bat. The convicts on the face of it aren't really all that fearsome, because the driver usually rams into something and has to reverse, providing you with an opening to take them down. Unfortunately, you're likely to encounter them pretty early on in the game, meaning that you're probably armed with basic items and have limited character upgrades. After you take them out you'll probably feel great and will let out a huge sigh of relief, right up until the first time you re-enter the courtyard to discover that they respawn. The disappointment of discovering that they respawn is a real kick in the teeth after that initial hard-fought victory. You'll likely become pretty adept at avoiding them as a result. The one good thing about the fact that they respawn is that they essentially provide access to an infinite supply of heavy machine guns. Lost Planet 2. Red Eye. Lost Planet 2 took the Lost Planet series in a new direction, by focusing on a 4-player co-op experience, which is a key reason that this particular boss fight is such a chore. Red Eye is a huge worm-like acrid that you battle while driving a train. That train is equipped with a huge artillery cannon, a weapon so large it's separated into 6 sections. Gun control, for fine aiming, also allows the turret to move slightly. Charging station, increases the power of each shell. Manual loader, where you load up the bullets. Crane loader, for loading in a special type of shell. Turret turning device, turns the turret more quickly. Coolant panel, basically fixes the turret when it overheats. The turret comes with no instructions, so working out all of the above is a case of trial and error. The red eye also quickly digs up and down into the desert sands, meaning that you have to turn the turret pretty quickly to keep on track of it. If you don't have any human companions along for the ride, then things become doubly difficult because you have to rely on the AI, which it turns out is only programmed to stand and shoot the beast with flimsy machine guns, rather than help you load, aim, or power up the turret. This fight is without a doubt one of the most epic battles in the entire series, but if you're playing solo then it's also likely to be the most frustrating ones, and even with human teammates it'll try your patience. The icing on the cake is that there's one final attack after you kill the creature that requires you to realign the turret. If you're not prepared for this eventuality in advance then you will die and will have to do the whole level again. Sekiro, Guardian Ape. Those of you that have played Sekiro will know that the majority of bosses can usually be taken down with some dirty tactics and/or perfect parrying. The Guardian Ape is no different in that respect, and I definitely had more trouble with other bosses, but it stands out as annoying for a couple of reasons. It's those few seconds, between thinking you've done it and realizing that it's about to get a lot worse, that really mentally screw with you. In his second form, the Guardian Ape sprays blood at you, which can cause death from terror. He also has some really weirdly timed combos that are difficult to deflect. But above all it's his reanimation that makes the Guardian Ape most frustrating. EverQuest, Carafirm, aka the Sleeper. Carafirm is a godlike dragon from EverQuest, an online MMORPG. It took 200 players around 3 hours to kill it. Now, clans banding together to kill giant bosses online is nothing special or that surprising, especially nowadays, but Carafirm was slightly different in that it was literally impossible to kill him because at roughly 25% health the dragon despawned. Over the weekend several guilds gathered on Rallos to fight with the Sleeper. Unfortunately, their encounter was cut short due to an apparent bug. The bug concerned an NPC in the zone that appeared to have been causing the Sleeper to not focus on the player characters. The decision was made at the time to end the event. Further investigation has only served to make it unclear if this was a real issue or not. EverQuest had around 400,000 players at the time, many of whom wanted to know what would happen if they managed to kill Carafirm. They were understandably grumpy to discover that it didn't matter how hard they'd tried or how well they'd played together as a group. All that effort was in vain because SOE made it impossible to achieve. In response to the inevitable backlash, SOE respawned Carafirm and clans were finally able to team up and kill it. More articles.